Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the fourth session of Sunoikisis Digital Classics Summer 2020. Today we have, three new guests for our session. This session is entitled Text-Bearing Objects 2, because last week we had our first session for text-bearing objects focusing on inscriptions. And today we have, the second section, but focusing on digital numismatics. And we are very happy about that because, we had numismatics before in Sunoikisis, but definitely we need more material, and we are very happy to welcome our new guests. And so today we have three guests. First, Lily Grozdanova from the University of Sofia. Then we have Alessio Sopracasa from Sorbonne, Paris, and then Karsten Tolle from the Frankfurt Big Data Lab. As usual, you have the class online in the class outline in GitHub. For today, you have a complete outline with a description of the session, with reference materials, readings, further readings, and then we also have three exercises that will be briefly described at the end of the session. And we also have the slides of our three speakers. But we can start our session. And our first speaker is Karsten Tolle. So welcome, Karsten, and thank you for joining us. Okay, I can share your screen. Okay, we have the screen, and so please, you can start. Karsten? It's possible that we have, I think he's frozen.
Yes, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me, Karsten? Okay, Karsten?
At least now I see my screen.
Yes.
I think it's time for me to start.
Yes.
Maybe in case the bad connection is on my side, please send me a note on the private chat. Otherwise, I simply start and go ahead so that we stay in time.
Okay, excellent.
So welcome. My name is Karsten Tolle. I'm a computer scientist at Goethe University. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Gabriel. I'm working together with numismatists since over 10, 12 years now in a project called numisma.org. That's part of what I'm going to present today. And since about 3 years, I'm also involved in a DFG project, so from the German government foundation called Corpus Nomorum Tracheum. And Lily will afterwards give additional presentation on the work there and what we're doing there. So I will concentrate on what is numisma.org, give you a brief introduction to it, and also on my IT work in relation to natural language processing and data quality. So first we start with the, let's say, project numisma.org, and you find it as you easily see by the name under this URL address, numisma.org. You will end up in a page that looks like one, and you see various people that are working on it. This initiative started, as I mentioned, over 10 years ago, first with Andy Meadows and Sebastian Heath. And they wanted to represent the concepts of numismatics in a semantic web linked open data fashion. And we will dig a little bit into what exactly that is. So we will have a look at the ontology, what are the IDs and concepts, how they look like, and what are the data sets you could retrieve from the website. So let's start with the ontology. The ontology is basically a way over 10 years that communication is really the key and also the most challenging part of our project we had. The project was never a funded project. It was basically a work of interested people that work together with a common goal. And we had various experts from the numismatic fields and some experts from the IT field. But the main work was to bring the domain experts together, talk to each other, and really find also a common language that is then also understood. And the ontology is on the IT level, something very similar. We see here the page of the ontology. You see there are classes like authorities and regions, for example. And as you can imagine, then in these classes, you can have instances of regions. We will come on the next slide to something like that. On top of classes in an ontology, you also have properties that you can use to link between objects. Here we see, for example, an instance of the ID namespace. So this is the concept of trust. So it's a region. You will see it on the upper left-hand side, where is NMO region. So this is an instance of the class we just have seen. And you see here various information about this instance. You see a short map with some mints, and also you see some relations to other URLs. You normally see this also in places like Wikidata, which refers to the linked open data world, where you have a subject, then a predicate and an object. So the subject is in this case trust, and the predicate are the blue SCOS brief label, SCOS definition, and so on, and the object is then on the right-hand side. And here we see the data sets that are provided to the numisma.org site. So these are different institutions. We see here the American Numismatic Society, Bibliothèque Nationale de France, and so on, that are using this ontology to represent their data. Then they generate a so-called RDF dump out of it, and they upload this dump on their site, and this is collected and can be further distributed via the numisma.org site. So this then ends up at numisma.org, and these data sets, so the dumps from those sites, and also Corpus Numorum Tracheum, are further used by other sites that are setting up typologies for those coins. The most famous one is probably Ochre, Online Coins of the Roman Empire, in the upper left, which represents nothing else than a type corpus that was defined earlier stage and is basically it's based on books. But here we see a digital representation of this corpus, and if you go and search for this website, you will then see various coins from various places that are taken from those data sets provided by participants via the numisma.org website. So let's have a short look at Corpus Numorum. Corpus Numorum is a project. It's funded and it's about to end in a few months. And it's about this special area that we see on this small map here, where they collected coins from or the Paris and other places. And the goal was to set up such a type catalog for this area and time period, which is in fact part of a bigger initiative that is covering not only this area, but connecting the work that's done on the Greek world from various places and bridging them. I now would like to first of all dig a little bit what we do from the IT side in that area. Especially in CN, we collected data from different sources, which resulted in various. Each source normally has different attempts how to do things and how to. So there was a lot of work to harmonize things, and the data entered manually, so there are humans in the loop, and this always results in errors. Errors are normal. Errors happen, and this process, how to get rid of those errors and how to improve the data quality, was one of the goals of our project. So what we did not solve this error or these errors in the relational world where all the data was stored in the project. We first using the ontology of Nomisma in order to solve it there. This enables us to use the system not only for our work, but also for other people using the same ontology. So there's a tool that in fact runs queries for things that should not happen, like a very small coin with a small diameter and a heavy weight. It's kind of strange, that shouldn't happen. Or a coin that is dated 100 years before Christ shouldn't be struck by Augustus, for example. And all these stuff is then put into Sparkle queries, executed, and the result of it would be an Excel sheet. Let's see if the next slide comes up. Here it is. The beauty about the system is we result that Excel sheet is given to the domain expert. The domain expert can then enter if these found inconsistencies or potential wrong things are really wrong, because for us as not domain expert, we cannot say that, and we also cannot correct it. It's something that has to be done by domain experts. So they can change it, they can put comments to the Excel sheet, and the next time we run it, we will keep the comments. So if the error still appears in the next round, we do the check, we will keep the comment, we will see what was the date this error first time encountered, and so on, which is quite important. Otherwise, you do the job over and over again. Why it's so important that we are working on the semantic level. Here's one Google query I encountered when I was playing around with Google. So I had the Denarios. Here we see a Denarios of Nero together with his mother. And the funny thing, if you enter Denari and Nero as a Google search, you will end up seeing this, which is quite nice, but has nothing to do with the coins you intended to search. It's because you're looking for these string of characters and not about the semantic behind. So that's what we try to tackle. So this is also what we did in improving semantic search on the coins. So we used natural language processing to identify persons and objects within the short descriptions of the images that are given in the data. So these descriptions exist. These exist for types. These descriptions exist for coins. There are thousands of them. And the first thing is we extracted those entities called named entity recognition. But we also tried to extract the relation between those persons and the objects. As you see here, this entity recognition works quite well, but it's also not working 100% well. So this wine skin, for example, is something a human would also try to identify as an object. However, we are getting quite well with what we're seeing here. This is a list of relations we are supporting. And you see here that holding, for example, is including various other semantic relations like playing and shouldering and so on. So it's a sum up of various semantic things. We also have a hierarchy in the different areas, like for persons and also for objects and animals. And this allows us at the end to do queries. And we see here again the structure of the subject predicate object style of the RDF world. In the first upper level, this could be a query asking for coins having the person Hadrian, so NM is the namespace of Nomisma. So this is Hadrian, holding would be our relation, and a sword. So if you're not happy and you only get very few results, our search option would allow you to increase if you simply replace sword and you go up in the hierarchy and would simply take arms. You would get probably much more results. And you say, oh, it's still not enough results, or I want to compare it with other emperors, you could query all emperors. Of course, the query at the moment is based on Sparkle again. It's not very human-friendly. There are other projects that are working in this direction, like Diana from Sicily, Messina. We experimented. We got quite good results. We even trained our system on corpus normorum data and then executed on the ochre data. And without any adaptation, we got good results in the respect that we had a recall from 100%. The precision was not 100%, so we received more results than a human would select, but already having this the recall 100% was quite astonishing. Yeah, down there's a link to a journal paper on this issue. In addition to what we're doing with natural language processing, we are also doing image recognition. So where we use CNN, so deep learning methods to, for example, try to identify the person who's portrayed on it. And then we combine everything. So we take the results from the named entity recognition, from the image recognition, and we compare it with the real data that is stored in the database. And finding-wise, we always find situations where the so-called ground truth, which is in the database, is not correct, where maybe the image recognition was better, or the named entity recognition pipeline was better. The image recognition is, of course, at the moment not so precise, and it's also due to the fact that the coins are not always well preserved, and you getting, as you see here, portrait 1, 2, 3, a set of possible results that could be there. But we found in Ochre various errors using this method and reported them, and they're hopefully corrected. And that's my short overview. Thank you.
Okay, Karsten, thank you very much. I don't know if I don't see questions so far, so maybe we can go on with Lily. Yes. Okay. Okay. Here we are.
Okay. Hello from me as well. First of all, I'm very grateful. I would like to thank for the invitation and for the chance to participate in this great endeavor. And I hope my presentation will be of interest to all of our participants now. It will be a kind of continuation to what Karsten just has presented to us, but in a slightly different context. So I would like to point your attention to a subject concerning the digital numismatics and how it is approachable and developing in the context of university education, which is very connected to what we heard till the moment. In the beginning of my short presentation, I would like to point the interest of everyone towards this question. I would like to ask everyone to look at this depiction here and just ask him or herself, what do you see? And maybe at the end of my short presentation, you will have a different answer that you would have now at this moment. So as Karsten already implied and actually very well presented, digital numismatics has new perspective on the way we work. He gave us the technical overview of the situation, and I would like to stress a bit on the user point of view, because I'm working with it as a researcher user, as a lecturer user, and why not as a student user, because we are studying all the time, all of us. So the rapid development of digital technologies in the last decades has revolutionized, as we all know here, the scholarship, including such rather conservative fields as humanities. And to be honest, numismatics is one very traditional and fairly conservative field of research dealing with the concept of material objects and with the need to constantly research them and have them in proximate near in order to work with them. But numismatic tools actually and digital tools actually are changing our perspective in every way. I won't get deeper in the details because, as I said, Karsten already showed us what is going on from the IT perspective. But in the last few years, what is happening is that we, as researchers, are getting an entirely new way of approaching our materials, of gathering information. The core data that is capable of describing the individual coin is suitable to undergo quantitative as well as qualitative and interpretational computer-based analysis, which leads to the fact that numismatic projects are very rapidly developing in the last few years. The implementation of the linked open data and semantic web principles allows for the rapid of detailed data sets concerning individual numismatic specimens. And till now, at this point, we do have a critical amount of information that would enable progressively more complicated and complex technological searches and queries, which is rapidly changing the way we actually conduct our research. Furthermore, except the individual amassment of data sets, there are quite a bit new platforms developing simultaneously, but they do coordinate between themselves. So they create this full-blown research area, research setting that is actually changing our perspectives. And as a researcher, I can see that on a daily basis. I think that in the modern world, and especially in the context of what is happening to us all at this point, we can learn to even more appreciate what is going on in this area. And it's very important because we are able now to connect big data quantities to search for new links between the coins. From my personal experience, I would say that on one side, as a numismatist, one has the problem of where were the coins circulating in ancient times. But when one is trying to conduct a survey on a particular coinage, one meets a new question, a new problem, which concerns actually the fact that the coins were circulating in ancient times in a specific area, but afterwards they were moved from the modern society. So in my case, researching Pautalia, which coins were circulating in the province of Thrace mainly. When I started searching my coins in different collections, I found coins in Canada. I found coins that are very far away from me, so I wouldn't have the chance to approach them unless we had this new setting, this new way of approaching the material. So it's changing our perspective substantially. But what I would like to stress moreover in this case is how is this setting actually changing the way we tend to educate in the area of numismatics. So I will come again to this platform that Karsten already presented, because I would like to have a particular showcase in order to be more specific in my collaboration in this topic. Corpus Memorum is a project that's been developing since 2013 on several stages, and its growth has been substantially impressive, actually, in any way. Starting from Thrace, it's not only developed further, so you can see that there are coin collections that are from the area of Mesia Inferior, Thrace, Mysia, and Troas, which indicates a much greater area of including new materials, which also incapacitates new options. And I can give specific examples on how important it is to have this type of connections in one platform. Most of the platforms tend to specialize on a specific area, which is on one side very important and makes them very highly specialized. On the other side, one loses the connection sometimes with materials that were actually functioning in the same system in ancient times. So I would like to point your attention to Corpus Memorum, and let's from now on perceive it as a classroom, because I would like to point in the direction of the people that are being educated in the area and the possibilities they have in this setting. So we'll go live to the website at this point. because it will be nice to see some of the possibilities that we get by using it. I hope that everything's being seen without any delay. So as I said, this is a project that has been developing since 2013, and at this point now it's intensively being developed by the Berlin-Brandenburg Academy of Sciences and Humanities in Berlin, the Münzkabinett Modern Museum, as well as the Big Data Lab of the University of Frankfurt, which is represented here by Karsten. This platform is highly complicated on one side because it represents the whole possibilities, the entire spectrum of possibilities in numismatics. And let me explain. I do not try to exaggerate here, but what I mean is that this is a platform that aims at providing researchers and wider public a digital tool that's more flexible and dynamic. In sense that when we are educated, we are being educated in numismatics. We know that there are different types of corpora that we can work with and that we can use. On one side, we have the type corpora, and on the other side, we have the die corpora, which are two different, entirely different types of researches. On one side, here, in this particular area, you have actually both types of corpora connected and being exposed at the same time in the same setting. What do I mean? This platform is actually developed in a way that we have a very specific data sets that are enlisting and describing a core, a numismatic object, a coin, a numismatic object in the as wide as possible way, as particularly as possible. So you have a data set that includes a visual representation of the coin with its avers and reverse. You have the data enlisted right next to it. So you have the mint. In the case I chose a subject that I'm currently dealing with Poetalia coinage. Poetalia is a city in ancient Rome in the province of Thrace that was actively issuing in the time from Emperor Antoninus Pius till the time of Emperor Caracalla. As you can see on the map, Poetalia is fairly close to Serdica and Philippopolis, and our data is that it was a great and important center in the area. So Corpus Numorum has the opportunity to give us the entire needed information when we are starting to deal with the numismatic concept. We have a dating, we have a period that's explaining the time of activity of the coinage. We have a standard and we have a denomination. We have something very important, especially in the case we are discussing now. We are talking about objects that are bearing information, and coins are especially interesting in this matter because when I asked you at the beginning, most of the people are, when I show them a picture of the coin, they have a straightforward answer. We all know what coins are because they are something that we are daily using, but we tend to not see them. So we need to deconstruct what we know about coins, and this platform is especially useful when we do that with students. We need to start seeing the coin as the multi-level source of information. We have a legend, which is very important. It has crucial information when we are dealing with a coin as a source of historical information. if you want to date a coin, for example, on the averse side of when in the case we are dealing with Roman provincial coinage, on the averse coin die, you have information concerning the sitter, the authority behind this coinage, that's giving you enough information in order to date this coin. Because you have the title of the emperor in this case, you have his name, so you have enough empirical data allowing you to date the coin. On the reverse side, you have, again, your legend, which can be informative. In this particular case, you have a coin from a provincial coinage, which is obviously seen in the legend because it's indicating that it was issued by the city of Poutalia. But you have a lot more. One coin, as I said, is object with multi-level sources, source and information, multi-level channels of information. So you have at the same time, you have data coming from the design of the coin, from the iconography that you are seeing. In this case, it's giving you, representing you information about the vicinity of Poutalia and important riches that the city disposes over. You have information about the city itself. You have information about the time the city was actively issuing. Furthermore, you have, except all of this, you have something more, which is also visible here. You have information about the sitter, as I said. You have information about the coin die and the coin number. And you have the diameter, also information about the weight, the owner. If one wants to research this type of coinage, it's very important to know where your coins are situated. And of course, you have additional literature. So for a student that's entering this field of research, it's very important that he disposes over the entire complexity of this object as a source of information. Something more, we were talking about linked open data, which is very important in this case, especially for students that are often thrown in situations that they receive lots of new data that they cannot do almost anything with. It's important that this platform is actively linking all the materials they have and all the names with data that's standardized in and represented also in Numisma. And as Karsten already showed you, following these links will open a great opportunity for a young scholar to reach information that's not being visualized here, because this is normal numismatic platform. But if you want to see where is the situation, where is the geographical situation of the city, you can do that by following these links that are obviously situated in this platform. So the platform actually represents the young scientists, future scientists, with great opportunities to both research coin objects as dice on a specific level, entering the deepest level of a coin, and it's 2 dice that are needed for the producement of one coin. But at the same time, you can access the different level, the different type of research, which is a type research, with the opportunities of the searches on the platform. Furthermore, it's important to see that here you have a list of collections, literature, and resources that are very useful in the work and research, because you have entirely a very good collection of research materials here, bibliography, glossary, and publications that are very helpful when a young individual enters this field. Something more, when you log in the platform, you have one private realm that allows you to experiment, to see whether you are understanding what you're working with. So it's very important to get to know these materials, and very helpful. Of course, when we go back to the presentation, because I see that my time is yet already to its time, to its coming to its end. I'm sorry. This digital way of approaching the material is very useful of preparing you for what comes next. Actually, by entering this area in this way, you have the opportunity to be acquainted with the material in the way you actually need when you come to work with the real material and have access to real coins in this matter. So when we talked about the coin as an object, I hope that you have a different answer now for what you were able to see when we started at the beginning. A coin is often perceived as one object and something that has monetary value, but actually as a source of information, the coin is much more multi-level that we expect. And by using platforms as the one I just had the opportunity to present, we actually get nearer to the concept of how multi-level and complex this material is. I would like to also, before ending, thank everyone, and to also invite you to one different webinar that will be concentrating on coins in the next few weeks. So I'll be very happy if everyone is joining us. There we will have guests, Dr. Ulrike Peter, François Duclos-Tai, and many more. So I'm thanking for your attention, and I hope you see each other again.
Okay, Lily, thank you very much, and thank you also for mentioning the webinar. Of course, please, you can also mention it in the class outline, so because I'm sure that there are people who are interested in that. Okay, before I don't know if we have questions, but I think we can go on, and then we can ask questions after. So, Alessio?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, so, okay, yeah.
Do you see my screen?
No, not yet. I think you have to share your entire. Yeah, I don't remember. You can choose. Okay, now it is. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm going to present actually here are some coin-like objects, actually seals, and especially Byzantine seals. That is the seals coming from the former Eastern Roman Empire, from the well, ideally the 4th to the 15th century. So first of all, just a quick presentation, an idea of what a seal, is. At least a Byzantine seal, a small round object, so it's a very coin-like object, in Byzantium mostly made of lead, so without any intrinsic value, but its function was important in order to, they were used in order to authenticate a document and to identify the sender of this document. For this reason, seals, Byzantine seals, bear the name and the functions of their what we call the issuer. And often with the iconography chosen by the person. This person belonged to the ecclesiastical hierarchy or to the civil or military hierarchy, and this is the most important historical function, I mean, for Byzantine studies of seals, because they bear the name and the function, the role of a person very frequently not recorded in written sources. Byzantium doesn't have we don't have archives, with a few exceptions, but we don't really have archives for the Byzantine history, and so we don't have the documents the seals were supposed to authenticate, and this is quite different, an important difference from, for example, Western sigillography. For Byzantium, the seal is studied per se as an object independent of a document we don't have anymore. And the historical importance for many aspects of Byzantine studies, prosopography, historical geography, and the development of the administrative apparatus of the state, of the church, and of the army is extremely important. So, how a Byzantine seal was produced? Well, through a matrix or a bulloterion, as was that tool was called in Byzantium, with an engraved surface. Inside it, a blank was put, and the bulloterion or the matrix was struck with a hammer, not very Byzantine-like this one, but just the idea, and a Byzantine seal, a seal as produced in as I said, very frequently, but not always, we have on the obverse an iconography, on the reverse a legend, so a text. That we can have a bilateral iconography or a bilateral text, or other kind of solutions as monograms, for example. So, not only for Byzantine seals, but for sigillography in general, I would like just to present very briefly. Three solutions are currently on their way and being adopted in order to present and to share and to study seals. The first one is this platform, DigiSig. The material is essentially based on seals held by institution in UK. So is an enhanced version of an archive or library catalog, and the photos are added by the responsibles where possible. Another kind of approach, you'll be free to take a look at those sites after. Is Sigilla. It's in this case a French project based on seals in French archives and libraries. It's a more elaborated tool approaching to some extent an edition of the seal with an important work on the seal as an object and the series, in a certain way, of a seal found in French institutions, cultural institutions. For Byzantium, one of the most important online solutions is this catalog of the collection of Byzantine seals held by the Dumbarton Oaks Research Library and Collection in Washington, D.C. They have one of the most important collection of Byzantine seals in the world, and it is an ongoing catalog with an edition. I choose a random seal here with high resolution photos and the description of the iconography where applicable, and the edition, what we call the diplomatic and the editorial interpretation of the legend, in this case on the reverse only, and in this case a very, very short commentary. But what I'm working on with Martina Filosa since for a few years, so we have been working on another kind of solutions for Byzantine seals. This solution is called Sigidoc. It's a project Byzantine sigillographer started to talk about Sigidoc around 2005, 2006, but the project has been resumed about 10 years after that. And what it is an encoded standard, XML-based and TEI compliant, designed in order to allow the addition of Byzantine seals, or if an edition is already, or if an edition already exists, the digital conversion of a paper publication. So, from a Sigidoc point of view, a seal is basically three things: an object, a text, and an iconography, if applicable, of course. In this case, we can find and we just had a clear example just before in this lesson. Sigillography can benefit, in any case, digital sigillography can benefit from the work already done for numismatics and epigraphy, according to the different aspects of the seal. With a difference with the coins, because unlike for coins, we don't really have series of seals. We can have small series, but not designed, not produced as that. We call that parallels, but this is not the same kind of conception of the series as we have in numismatics. So, in a certain way, not in a certain way, but very often, a seal is a unicorn. There's no other object identical to one specific item. Sigidoc, according to what I just said, has been designed, has been realized and developed thanks to an already existing work, especially thanks to TI XML, its subset Epidoc, and the newly conceived tool FS, adding, of course, the specific work for sigillography. This sigilloc has been designed to be used in a very independent way by individuals and institutions. So every individual collector, for example, or an institution, will be able to develop a sigilloc-based project in order to publish its collection, but the aim in the medium term, I hope, medium-term aim is to develop a common search interface in order to have a virtual unified sigillographic corpus. And through a common interface, all the sigilloc corpora should be available at once. How the sigilloc XML file has been designed. Those are just the main elements, and all that will be very, very familiar to every TEI and Epidoc user, and the final on the right, the FS generated web page with again the main fields corresponding to the main elements in the XML edition, in the XML version of the edition of Alessio. So basically, sigilloc adapted mainly from Epidoc is going to produce all the metadata, the work, the tag, so the encoding standard for the legend, so the text, and all the indexing information, and all that will be displayed through FS, and FS will help sigilloc to organize its data and to visualize them and to publish them. So just to give a very simple example of how sigilloc encodes a sales text, so a sales legend, I won't describe here the iconography. Here, just the obverse is the text on the obverse is what we call the sigla. So the two abbreviations indicating the kind of iconography the subject of the iconography, in this case, so the Mother of God, of a very specific type, but it doesn't. It's not interesting for now, and that's how we decided to tag all that with a reference. Of course, this is the reference for the ref. Marian sigla is to a reference to the authority list in FS, allowing the creation of of an index, and all that treated as an expansion of abbreviation. The text on the obverse is you can see here the diplomatic edition displayed in CGDoc with a very specific font called Athena Ruby, developed at Dumbarton Oaks Research Center for coins, for Byzantine coins, and then adapted to seals, and the editorial edition, the editorial interpretation. Starting the encoding starts with the mention of the case of the legend. It can be interesting for a studiographic point of view to see that this legend is on the dative. And after that, each part of the legend will be tagged according to its nature or its function. In this case, we start with the invocation to the Mother of God, protect, or aid, help. The other part is the name of the issuer of the seal, Ursel. The Greek form of Roussel. We know that this is Roussel de Bayeul, a very known Latin mercenary working in the Byzantine Empire in the 11th century, with a Persian name, of course. And after that, its dignity and then its function, because in this case, this Roussel is treated in this inscription as a functionary of the Byzantine state. He's a military, but it belongs to a state hierarchy. This means in Byzantium that he has the right to have a dignity, so an honorary title, and then we are going to find the name of its function. And we, CGDoc is going to tag separately dignities, dignities of pride, or very high ranking dignities, especially for some non-Byzantine man, and its function. Of course, before the conjunction, okay, and after that, stratopedarchy, it's a military function, and all this material will be indexed through FS. Another question, but this is much more in progress than the other part. It's the iconography. Iconography has been is still a major challenge for Byzantine, not only Byzantine art history, but especially for Byzantine sigillographic iconography, and we are developing an iconography description standard specifically designed for Byzantine seals. And the idea is to organize the data in hierarchical order from the largest categories, a few categories as person, animal, cross, etc., to the smallest details, for example, objects, the person held in his hands. And it, of course, this is a major point, is an extensible system, because we can add new element of iconography according to the addition of new and unknown and previously unknown seals. So the question is, for example, how to display and handle all this material through an XML solution, so an encoding data with these data with those data with XML, or a drop down menu for a search interface. This is a very, of course, a very ugly output. Is just to have an idea of that. It's based on a very simple XML encoding of the iconography for animals, and you have here some of the major categories, but not all, according to which the information will be could be displayed. This is, of course, these terms look weird because they are the style sheet takes them simply in the as they are the attributes, the values of the attributes in the XML describing the iconography. So basically, we also already have, through these elements of description, we also have the fields for future, and this is maybe for a long-term aim, research search form, especially designed for iconography. So that's I think that's all, and thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, so thank you very much, Alessio. Well, it was so thank you all, because it was really super interesting. I don't know if we have questions in this chat and in I'm looking at YouTube. Well, maybe in the meantime, people think a bit. Of course, well, there are many questions. At least I have many questions, but we don't have the time. Well, first of all, thank you, because really you have been able to present a complex discipline, because numismatics is complex, but I think that our audience has an idea of the different layers we have on a small coin or on a small seal, how many elements we have, first of all, so the complexity of the object, and on the other side, the work that now we have in these online resources we have seen, especially for semantic web and linked open data. And I think that, for example, I think I'm not an expert in, I am a classicist, but I'm not an expert in numismatics, but I have been using with my students also numisma, also students in computer science, because in Leipzig I have many students in computer science, and I have to say that we can use that resource to show, especially for linked open data, for RDF, the language, the terminology, because also on each web page, at the level of the interface, you can visualize the language and the connections and my different concepts, starting from, well, the mint, the concept of the mint, then the geography, and then single coins. So I think in this sense, especially, well, I know numism better than other resources, but I think that this is a very good example if we want to show work in linked open data for the ancient world. Okay, not only for numismatics specifically, but in general for showing, together with papyri.info, a lot of work for RDF, for example. And then the other thing I would like to go back to the question concerning the iconography, and I think, well, of course, there are many questions on that aspect, but I think that there we can also connect to the problem of citing images, for example, because I could see that in your examples with the XML of a single seal, you also annotate, well, of course, the language, and there were links to Morpheus of Perseus. So in that case, we can basically cite, okay, small text we have on coins and seals, but for the iconography. There is some work in the community for citing images, for providing stable identifiers, for citing images, for quoting images. And okay, in the community, there is a lot of work for manuscripts, for example, but also in this case, I think that we could have a possibility, especially if we can, now that we have images of seals and coins, we can also isolate, even if it's, I understand, more difficult than with a manuscript or with an inscription or another bigger object. It's difficult, but anyway, we can cite, okay, a specific iconographic element and connect it to other resources. Well, we have comments in our chat from YouTube. I hope you can read it. And there is also, I think, an internal, first there is a question, okay. Karsten has had a question. So yes, so why XML for the iconography and why not RDF? So Karsten was asking this question.
Yeah, of course, I agree. Why not? It's just we concentrated in the past because this is we designed the basis of this system a few years ago. After that, we concentrated on other aspects, the edition of the seals, not in general. So we wanted before that. Before deciding the technical, the digital approach, to have a system, a working system, and to be sure it was working with the Byzantine sigillography. After that, when we are going to resume this part on the iconography, we are certainly going to ask us that kind of question. But from that's why I asked that question, because it's actually without any answer for us until now. We are just only this hierarchical system. We know that it's a good system, but his translation in a digital form, this is the next step.
Maybe I can add some words from my point, which is obviously more a technical point of view. But I think there are also students that are kind of watching in YouTube. And from a very technical perspective, XML for me is a tree structure. So as you say, it's a hierarchical structure. And RDF is, for me, it's a graph. And the beauty of a graph is that it's more flexible. So you don't need to care where in your tree you want to add something. In a graph, you simply add something. And by identification of the URI, different nodes are merged if they're same URI. So I think it's much easier to start from an RDF point of view, and then maybe in a later stage, if you want to switch to an XML version that is more restrictive and which also has its beauties and can then be used to exchange data and to display data in a more structured way. So XML has its beauties, but as a starting point, my recommendation to you would be to start with a more flexible and more adaptable approach, which would be RDF.
Okay, when when we are going to start to ask us this kind of questions, I'm going to take into account this recommendation. Many thanks.
I would like to add that the fact that objects such as coins already have a elaborated image ontology to some extent could be applied in some way to because I'm interested describing more properly the imagery that is also because the decorative part of it, except for the images provided in the epigraphical collection, I think needs more elaboration. So probably this ontology could be adapted to the description of at least more standard imagery, which is also to be found in ancient inscriptions. And mutatis mutandis, we can use this. And I learned from the first time from this presentation that such a thing exists. And maybe as then in the XML inscription, in the XML description of a single monument or something like that, you can link to, you can refer to the URI of the elements that you have, at least for the more standard images, because there are such types of images. Of course, the problem with the inscriptions is that iconography has much more richer variation, because on a relief you can really depict whatever. on a coin, probably not that much, and it does not. It's more centralized as far as I can see, and it serves more centralized purpose for, let's say, state propaganda or something like this. Whereas an inscription could be a private affair, and it could vary greatly. But it's a good basis that it's probably worth exploring and applying in other types of text-bearing objects and documents.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. Actually, to add in connection with the last, unfortunately, coinage is not more standardized in this matter. It varies from coinages that are actually controlled from, you can see on the reverse or on the obverse as well, the person that was personally responsible for issuing this coins to this type that I showed you. Today it was a provincial coinage, which is very important on local level. So they're showing things that are important for Poetalia, to be honest. So it's very near to what you can see actually on any type of other important or object as a monument of epigraphy. But yeah, in general, I do think that our directions have ways to complement each other. I think that also from IT perspective, the basis is very similar. We can use digital tools that are developed from one area and apply them in another. So that's why I'm very happy that we are actually here. Thanks to you to inviting us here, because it's a great way to meet those things and popularize them together. It's very important to see that they have much in common.
Well, there is a comment in the chat about numismatics that can be underestimated in the letters area. Well, I'm old enough to remember a time when there were specific courses for numismatics and epigraphy in the academic world. And today, well, the situation is different, but on the other side, thanks to digital classics and to many other projects, well, we have numismatic disciplines, sub-disciplines like numismatics, epigraphy now have a new role, I have to say. This is why, for example, and I can mention that because a few weeks ago in my course for digital humanities in Leipzig, where most students are computer scientists, I could mention numismatics, I could show numisma, and I could talk about RDF and spending about 30, 40 minutes talking about coins, something that I couldn't imagine, well, I think 5, 6 years ago, especially with an audience not constituted by students in classics. So we have big hopes. No, this is important, I think, and I think that the community of papyrology also, which is very, very active, numismatics, and today, of course, is a small field compared to other fields, but we have great hopes for the future. So it's underestimated, but now we have really the possibility also to work on these complex objects in the digital world. And yes, because of course, when you connect, when you start with a small coin, and thanks, for example, to an ontology, to RDF, you expand to the entire Mediterranean world. Also, students without a knowledge of classics can understand, okay, how this discipline is fascinating. And another comment, okay, we also have an experience in stamp analysis. Okay, yes, it's good to know we can count on advanced digital sources on this topic. Well, yes, also for seals, and I think that is interesting, this aspect that we have the seals, but we don't have anymore the documents. So we miss one component, but we can reconstruct something, okay, from what we have. I think this is the fascinating part. So now it's 21. I don't know if we have other questions. I don't see other questions. Yes, Gabby, please.
Can I ask briefly a high altitude question? This is for all three presenters, really. You talked on the coin side, both Numisma and Corpus Numorum enable you to search from a single interface lots of different lots of different numismatic corpora, and you talk about the value of looking outside a single date or place restricted corpus to much wider things. And likewise, Alessio talked about how in CityDoc is one possible way of bringing together multiple different corpora of Byzantine seals that might not always be queryable from the same interface otherwise. I wondered if any of you thought there was potential or value in being able to search coins and seals from a single interface, given that they're similar but not identical kinds of objects and texts.
Maybe I can start. I think we are all in an approaching phase, and it will take time. But yes, I think that is exactly the beauty. I mean, what I'm doing with extracting, for example, person and objects from coin descriptions, I was also thinking of applying my tool also on different types of material, like on vases, like wherever you have some description of something. It could be seals, it could be anything, and then you can link objects like coins with other objects that have iconographic descriptions or anything. So I think this is exactly the idea and the beauty behind that we are able to then maybe in future to link things we at the moment do not link at all. And I think this is, as I said, we at Corpus Numorum are dealing with a very small region, and then there are others that are dealing with other regions, and this is only on coins. And then there is this ARC project by Andy and Frederic that are trying to connect them. So, but we are still in the numismatic field, and we are trying to expand. We had in Oxford a meeting where we tried to get other archaeologists on board that are digging in the ground, which are at the moment still separated from archaeologists like numismatics, because they're also working and thinking in a different way. So yes, the answer is yes, but at the moment it takes a lot of time and a lot of more effort to but we are approaching. And for example, systems like Wikidata, which is quite, well, everything is in there, which is also a problem. but this is the first step in that direction where it might go. We need to work on the data quality, what I'm doing. We need to work on how to reduce duplicates, how to reduce inconsistencies in those huge graphs, but that would be the dream at the end. Yes.
And yeah, in addition, I would say, yeah, it's the same. Actually, the project I took, what I mentioned that we will have a numismatic webinar is a part of a project that we are actually at the moment at the very basic steps. I should say we are in the beginning. We are exactly that, thinking on a platform, on a tool that will be able to connect some materials from the area of Thrace connected to the religion and to the religious thinking that are not just coins. On the contrary, we are thinking and working, and we will have big need of help in the matter of digital, because we would like to progress in exactly in the field of gathering different types of materials in a standardized controllable platform that can be searched in the same platform. For example, there is no explanation for some of the iconography we can see on coins, because it's a religious iconography, but there is there are no parallels to understand why is that like this. But searching on other types of objects, one often finds an explanation why is that appearing on a coin. So we are actually currently hoping to work in these directions, but as Karsten said, it will be a long way and not an easy one, but hopefully together we'll find a way.
Well, it will be certainly very interesting inside the same culture. I mean, for Byzantine seals and coins, there are shared features in iconography or in epigraphy at some periods of the Byzantine history, and it will be very interesting actually to connect more explicitly then. For the art history too, because usually in Byzantine studies it's said that seals are the most important repository of icons, of Byzantine icons. So a connection with art history objects, so outside the small archaeological objects, could be also interesting. Outside the same culture, I would say why not, but from not only from a technical but from an intellectual point of view, would be a very much longer path to follow, but possibly extremely interesting in that case too. Yes, of course.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, this discussion is an example of how many things we can do. We have the tools now, of course. There is a lot, a lot that we have to do. Anyway, thank you very much also for this final discussion, for the presentation. Really was great. And again, for our audience, everything is in GitHub. You have the class outline. Also, the exercises are quite straightforward, I have to say, and please, so even if they are not easy, but anyway, the descriptions are clear. So thank you to our guests. Next week, we will have another session about open access for digital classics. Okay, so which is one of our popular topics. Our guest will be Rada Varga. And so again, thank you very much. I wish you and our audience, good afternoon and good night, and see you and good luck with this semester and in general with our project. Okay, bye bye, ciao.